Ripplinger. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, man.
I noticed that you and I have at least one bullet point on our resume in common. We were both squad leaders in the U.S. Army.
Oh, really?
Yeah, man. I was down at Fort Campbell.
Oh, nice.
Sergeant Davis, and I assume you were probably Sergeant Ripplinger?
Yeah.
I had a six-pack back then, man.
I was in great shape.
Yeah, man, I could do all the push-ups. Yeah, I was a squad leader myself.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, that was probably the beginning of your path into kind of building the equipment for warfare, right?
Exactly. It's my time kind of got cut short. Got medically retired in 2011. Had a weird transition middle ground for a few years, but it's really kind of that desire to kind of get back into the fight. Battle Sight.
Yeah, that's cool. I was researching a little bit. I did just enough to get curious about what you guys are doing with Battle Sight Technologies. You're building some cool chalk. That's what it looked like. That's as far as I got. You guys are building cool chalk.
We always joke, and my wife hates this. When people ask me, what do you do for a living? I'm like, oh, I build crayons for a living.
Right?
And people are like, that's interesting. Tell me more. They're like, all right, there's nothing here. I'm going to move on. So it's the best networking filter. But yeah, those infrared crayons are kind of what got Battle Sight started.
What are they for?
Really is designed for that close quarters combat mission.
Okay.
You go in, clear a house, kill or capture, whoever needs kill or captured, and we're throwing chem lights. And then go back and grab up all the intel and then throw another chem light. And so now they're due to gravity and they roll under couches or in this room, probably underneath this desk. Mm-hmm. That now you just write at eye level and still be able to see without taking your nods off and remain invisible to the enemy.
Okay, so you can mark up a building that you've cleared and you could say building cleared or something.
Exactly.
You can write it up. You don't have to leave some equipment there for somebody else to find.
Chem lights are super static, right? They're 6 inches either on or off. Where now you can actually write symbols, words, kind of enable that dynamic communication.
So it's essentially invisible. I mean, it's the invisible ink, so to speak.
Yeah.
That can be read from the sky or whatever else.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. I did helicopters with this and.
Oh, dude, that's rad as hell. I get it now.
It's been a lot of fun.
How would that be used then? What would they use it for?
It's amazing. We have the best customers in the world and the smartest customers in the world. So we really designed it just for that close quarters combat mission I just described. The medics are using it to treat casualties under night vision. So you put the tourniquet or you give them morphine, you can still see it under night vision and kind of keep control of your casualties. And then the EOD guys are taping them to their boots and kind of breadcrumbing and leaving a big dot every time they step.
Oh, okay. So you could mark up your patient.
Exactly.
Treating them or whatever.
Yeah.
So in the middle of the night. Yeah, okay. That makes sense. Yeah, so you got all kinds of uses.
Oh, yeah. They use it we really thought it was one specific thing, and we started engaging customers. And we're like, oh, wow, this can do, 100 different things.
Just like crayons.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay. Kindergarten classroom, but then, restaurants or whatever else, right? But
yeah, exactly.
Are there any non-warfare applications for that? Have you even figured out where you can use that?
So we did some visible spectrum, some green ones, and give them to the kids on Halloween a couple of years ago, and they just went out and vandalized the whole neighborhood. All over the sidewalks, mailboxes. So, that's definitely something in the future that's coming down the pike. But
right. All kinds of wreckage that can be created.
It just disappears after, about 90 minutes and fades away.
Yeah, there's probably a toy market out there for you too, huh?
Yeah, you think about raves and anywhere else where they use a traditional chem light, now they can do way more with it.
Yeah, you get some super serious market, and then you've got some total waste of time and attention market out there too, huh?
Absolutely.
How's business?
It's good. 22 was a weird year. Just kind of administration's getting up and running. So not to get too political, it's definitely a change. Anytime you have an administration change
the government's your business. So,
yeah.
You kind of have to stay a little bit political, right?
Yeah. It's not good or bad. It's just different. Okay. And you have to adjust. So 22 was kind of our adjusting year. 23 has been a pretty good year. Kind of just everything going on in the world, and everybody's spending on defense right now with what's going on with Russia and Ukraine and the China potential. It's, kind of starting to rebound pretty well for us. And I think right now it's a great time on the R&D side of bringing new products to the market and really just, trying to solve those customer problems.
You guys have a lab? Is that kind of your primary thing that you do, or what is it?
We're definitely heavy on the R&D side. Our office is probably 75% lab, a little bit, desk space. Kind of take the Apple approach, right? Designed here, but built somewhere else is kind of our whole business model. We do manufacture Craytech in-house right now. But everything else is pretty much contract manufactured based off of the R&D we did in-house.
Craytech is your war crane.
Yeah, the war crane.
You have a couple other products that you're working on too, right? In addition to Craytech?
Yeah. So Cold Fire is about to launch. It is a infrared phosphor. So you kind of think of like the dials on your watch. You come in from inside, they're all glowing. So we're doing that in the infrared spectrum. We put that into almost any material. We've 3D printed with it. We've put it into PVC patches, operating under night vision goggles so you can know who's who. Kind of like the old cat eyes on the back of the helmet that glue visible. So on the back of the headband, there's two like glow in the dark.
Well, I remember the dots on the little headband.
Yeah, exactly. So those glow in a yellowish green color.
Okay.
So we're taking kind of that same chemistry, but doing it in the infrared spectrum. So you can't see anything with the naked eye, but when you look at it through night vision goggles, it's glowing just as bright as your watch or anything else.
And is your idea that like all soldiers then would be wearing those?
Yeah, that is, the goal. We kind of designed it mostly for like the unit patches or the American flag on the uniform.
Okay.
Something kind of universal that, kind of stands out significantly more so you don't, shoot the wrong person in those chaotic combat situations.
Who are you selling those to? I guess the Army, all of the U.S. military?
Yeah, so that one's about to launch. So we're definitely kind of looking for that first big purchase right now. Talking with a lot of our foreign partners as well, just kind of, because they're kind of closer to the front edge right now than we are.
It makes me curious, like when you're selling something as ubiquitous as like a uniform, right? And you're selling it to, it's like, who's going to buy it first?
Yeah.
Like, is the U.S. military going to buy it first? Is the Marines going to have it and the Army's not? Is the Army going to have it but the Marines aren't? Is the regular Army going to have it but the Rangers going to have it but the regular, right? So those are the kind of things that always plagues me a little bit when I think about the acquisitions process.
Oh, yeah. It is a long, cumbersome acquisition process. I don't lie. We're probably like C+, B- type players in that space right now, trying to definitely improve that area right now.
But something like that could be useful like in a universal way. It would be most useful if all service members were identifiable on the battle.
And it really just kind of takes that first one and then just kind of snowballs until it becomes universal. But that's like a 3 to 5 year process.
Well, 3 or 5 years, I guess, is better than never, right? It's better than 30 to 50, right?
That's a weird space we play in too, right? Because we're not building the next F-35. That's, a 15-year development cycle when we're trying to turn from idea into commercialization in 18 and 24 months.
How long would it take then to take something like that and apply it at scale? That seems like that would be a big hurdle.
So I think like the one thing we're fairly decent at Battle Sight is we are always planning for that scale from the time of concept of, how do we scale when we're developing it and figuring out how to build it or manufacture it is how do we do that at scale the whole time. If they wanted to outfit all, 500,000 service members in the U.S. military, we could probably do that in under 12 months.
It's timely that we're having this conversation on Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah, it is.
Thanks for your service, man.
You too, brother.
Let's dedicate this episode to those that have fallen and those who served before us, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, the work that you're doing and so many others are doing, and if we can make all of them a little bit safer.
I mean, that's our whole mission, right? Is safer, simpler, more lethal. Like, we don't want our men and women going into a fair fight. We want them to have a technology advantage, a weapons advantage, a communication advantage, just everything advantage.
22 is kind of your rebuild or kind of get your footing year. What's next for you guys?
Yeah, just kind of continued growth, really putting a lot of focus on the acquisition side of things and how do we transition, these great products we built for specific missions into broader applications. So really kind of going from that acquisition side of things while continuing the R&D and development side. We're pencils down on some products and like they need to transition and move into more of a sales role than an R&D side. But we also don't want to keep innovating. We want to keep, providing new and unique solutions that solve these warfighter problems.
You need to go out and win deals so that you can sell these products that you've built. Right?
Exactly.
Are there particular partnerships or alliances or connections that would be helpful to you? What's your strategy there?
We're pretty open book on this. We care about getting the technology and the solution to the warfighter's hands. We don't really care what path that takes. We've done direct sales, we've done distributors, we've done international agents. We don't really have a preference on how it happens. We're super flexible. We're a small team, which is, great for that flexibility.
It's like we got cool tech over here who wants to help us get it in their hands.
Exactly.
Right? what different ways have you guys done deals already?
Like the funded R&D stuff that's turned into product sales. We've done direct sales to the U.S. and foreign partners. We've done, sales through distributors, done sales through other people's IDIQs. So many people kind of get focused like, no, we only want to be a direct sales company, or we're only going to push people to this distributor. And our goal is like a customer calls us up, how's the easiest way for you to purchase? We don't really care at the end of the day.
Right. It's just paper.
Yeah.
If it's
easier for you to use this one distributor, like, let's set up a meeting and we'll get this sales order done, closed. Or if it's under a certain threshold on kind of their side, then if we can, do direct, simple acquisition, or if it's larger than that, we've got some other contract vehicles in the works right now.
How'd you get into this work?
Dumb luck.
Oh, really? I mean, same. I mean, I think we all kind of get into whatever we're doing. Most of us, 80%. Some people are just like born, like, I want to operate on livers or whatever. Right? Like, I don't know who those people are, but most of us just kind of luck into what we're doing. But tell me about your path.
Yeah, so I had way too much fun in high school.
Okay.
So I went into the Army right out of high school.
Cool.
Had a great military career. Wouldn't change a thing about it. Got to do some really cool stuff. Got medically retired after an injury back in 2009. Medical retirement caught up to me in 2011. Moved back home. Was going to take a year off, go back to school, figure out what the hell I wanted to do with my life. We were home for like 3 weeks. My wife told me she was pregnant.
Okay.
I knew nothing about kids besides they were expensive. So like taking a year off probably wasn't the right play. So I took a job up at Right Pat. Hated every minute of that. Went out to industry. Enjoyed that. Kind of got put in this weird merger and acquisition role. I was on the team that sold the company to private equity, did a big public merger, and then got hired at my last contracting job with the sole purpose of like sell this to private equity. Had a great team there, but just kind of burnt out. Wasn't sure what I was going to do next. And so we actually licensed the core technology from the Air Force that became the foundation at Craytech. I think there's definitely an underutilized licensing opportunity there, because AFRL spends something like $7 billion a year on research, and that turns into patents that go and sit on a shelf and just waiting for somebody to come grab them and turn them into a product and sell them back to the government.
It's that horrible job that you hated every minute of. It gave you some insight.
Yeah,
you learned a few things, right?
Kind of came through a mentor, though.
Is that right?
Yeah, so we actually passed on the Craytech technology the first time it was pitched to us. Like, didn't really see the application. I guess depending on who you hear the story from. You go back to my mentor who's pitched this to us. I swear to God, he left off the infrared aspect the first time. Like 6 weeks.
Your mentor left it off, or the person who pitched it?
My mentor, who was the one pitching this whole concept of like, go take some technology and build a company around it. So the second time, like 6 weeks later, he's like, oh yeah, they can do it in infrared. I'm like, oh wait, like I would have been a customer for this product back in my military days.
Yeah.
So that's kind of when the connection happened, and we licensed a couple patents from the Air Force and kind of started running this back in 2017.
How'd the mentor relationship start?
Just a friend of a friend was like, hey, you two should meet. We hit it off. He's wildly more successful than I am, and was willing to, share, and I was willing to listen and apply what he was telling me.
Just thinking the other day about how different life can be just from like one passing connection. I had a meeting I missed. It might have been 10 years ago. That was longer than that. I forget how old I am sometimes. It was probably 20 years ago. I was running late. I forget why. I missed a meeting with somebody because I was late, and he didn't take the meeting because I presume because I was late, and I never ended up meeting that guy. And who knows, like meeting that guy could have changed everything, right?
Oh yeah.
Who knows? And I never ended up meeting him. And then there are other people that I met just in passing, and it changed everything. That one connection I made with somebody randomly created this whole set of opportunities for me. And one missed meeting and one seemingly random connection with somebody created all these opportunities, this whole branch of decisions and impact in my life. And it's wild sometimes how just one person or one conversation or one opportunity or whatever can change everything for you.
Absolutely. I think this whole world's built on relationships, some good, some bad, and everywhere in between. And
so I'm glad that a mentor pitched you that one product. You said you passed on Craytech the first time though, huh?
Yeah.
So what was the basis for passing on it the first time?
I just thought it was gonna be like the visible spectrum kind of novelty toy market, and it's out. Like I've got kids, and like I'd probably buy this for them, but like I don't know, like this wasn't exciting to me. And then when you start thinking about like the infrared side of things, and kind of giving this tool to the warfighter to go into combat with, that's like that's super exciting to us. And
have you heard any stories about how it's been used?
Definitely a bunch of inappropriate stuff have been drawn. It's the first thing that everybody does with this.
Tell us, man.
They're like, turn off the lights, let's draw a big dick.
Oh, really?
Every time. Never fails.
You got to do something to entertain yourself out there in the dirt, right?
Exactly.
My God.
But when Iran was firing missiles into Iraq, this was early on, probably like 2018, 2019 maybe, they were using it to mark the pathways to the bunkers. And then the snipers are using it to mark distances out, because there's always a kind of counter attack after the missile launch. So they were able to know exactly, like, hey, over there is 350 yards, but over here is 800 yards, and so they could adjust quickly.
So you could triangulate known targets.
Exactly.
Stuff you couldn't do with a little little glow stick.
Counting chem lights out or something. Honestly, that's the motivation. I kind of kiss this up every morning.
I just talked about some of the relationships or whatever in my career or whatever, but have you had an opportunity to shake hands with those soldiers that use your product?
Yeah. It's like we were just last week down in Tampa for Soft Week, and just hanging out with these super badass men and women who were out there doing some way crazier stuff than I ever thought about doing in the military. And when you see their faces light up, like, oh, this is a new capability that we kind of put in our toolbox, and there's no better feeling in the world than seeing excited customers.
Well, particularly when your customers are doing badass stuff, like absolutely. You said. Right? Yeah. Who was I talking to recently? Oh, it was David Hart from JJR.
Oh, yeah.
He was he's done some cool stuff. He was talking about clearing the runway. He was a ranger and got to do some fun stuff. I didn't do all that high-speed stuff when I was in the service, but he was describing it. We had coffee the other day, and it was fun, and intense. And I got a little bit jealous and impressed with some of the fun stuff you got to do. But anyway, when you meet people who have done some intense, fun, also kind of like scary, threatening stuff or whatever, it's a little bit exhilarating. But how much more so when they got to do it with your equipment that you had a hand in building, right?
That's so great.
Oh, man. So now I'm having that same feeling for you. You got to nerd out in the lab and build equipment and have that feeling, doing it for them, right? Like putting that equipment in their hands. So yeah, well done, man. That's cool.
Yeah, no, it's great. And I'm telling you, there's no better feeling than like when a customer's face lights up and they kind of make that connection. Oh, we can use it for this or that. But I think I said at the beginning, right? We thought it was a very niche kind of focus. And then every time we talk to somebody, that just keeps getting broadened.
Right. You didn't even know that they can make cartoons and stuff.
Yeah. That's
I'm trying to create a brand here, man.
I'm sorry if I kind of ruined it.
No, it's all right. I think your website says that you also have a market with like police force and stuff, right? Law enforcement customers. Is that right? Have you had any luck marketing your product to law enforcement?
Yeah, I think the one thing we learned kind of going after the law enforcement market is just how underfunded they are and under-resourced. Yeah. So there's several SWAT teams even here in the area in Southwest Ohio that aren't running night vision goggles for night operations.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So that's kind of a big eye opener. But what the bigger cities are running those type of technologies and are using the products, and again, just kind of using it to communicate in those low light, no light situations with one another.
Yeah, so I guess that makes your target market pretty narrow if there's only a handful of them that are even using ancillary stuff that would be needed to make yours useful, right?
Exactly. And the Navy's doing they run a good program of like taking their old night vision goggles and giving them like very low cost leases to police departments.
Okay.
So we're hoping to kind of see an uptick on that, just as this world keeps getting crazier and crazier.
Yeah, it sure does, man. I'm not a fan of violence in general. Told you about my run-in with the local wildlife over here. My heart bleeds even just dealing with that. But it is a shame. It's so necessary at times. I appreciate you being engaged and helping those fights go the right way.
Trying to do the right thing.
So the next product you're building, what was the name of it again?
Cold Fire.
The Cold Fire?
Yeah.
So what's the stage?
The stage we're probably like a TRL 8 out of 9. So it's very sophisticated prototypes is how I'd summarize it. There's definitely a technical definition out there for it.
Okay.
But we're just trying to do the last couple tweaks, and that should be, hidden late summer. And then we're also testing a beacon we built for the Air Force. They wanted to be able to see it from about 5 miles away, nautical miles at altitude. Okay. And we're seeing it from about 50 nautical miles away.
Wow. What was the beacon be used for?
It was originally designed for like the isolated pilot. So if you get, shot down in a denied or contested environment, you can turn this on, we can pinpoint you and go pick you up.
Okay.
With, air superiority that we had in Iraq and Afghanistan, if you crashed an airplane or something like that, just, try to find some shade. We'll come get you in the next couple hours because we had the air superiority, which we probably won't have in the next conflict.
So you need a little bit better equipped force as far as responsiveness and better assets for.
And exactly. And we'll start thinking about near peer, right? A lot of people can see in the near IR, which is like Coldfire and Craytac. But what can we do in the shortwave infrared and midwave infrared to extend that distance and so that our adversaries can't see in that spectrum as well?
So explain that a little bit.
Yeah, so near IR is like night vision goggles.
Right.
It's from like 750 up to 950 nanometers.
Okay.
Which is basically just another color.
Okay.
So if you think like red, or I guess like green, orange, red,
okay,
are all colors that we can see. They're all in different spectrums.
Okay.
And then near infrared, we can't see with the naked eye, but you can see with night vision goggles and
gotcha
other sensors. Then you go into shortwave, which is a little more sophisticated and a little harder to see than midwave, which is pretty hard to see in, and then long wave, which is like your thermal signature.
And so the long wave stuff is the hardest.
Probably the second easiest.
Okay.
There's a lot of different type of like commercial, relatively inexpensive sensors that you can see people's heat signatures with.
I see.
So that SWIR and midwave are really kind of the hardest to see in.
And so that would be the stuff that you would be best covered in or whatever.
Exactly.
Okay. So if you want to be identifiable to your allies and not to your enemies, then that would be the best way to send up a flag or a beacon.
So we're doing some testing with some 3-letter agencies right now, seeing if we can see some national assets, and the testing's proving promising right now. It's probably a little too early to like plant our flag and say, yeah, we've solved this problem, but the initial testing has been great.
3-letter agencies, huh? Are you allowed to talk about it?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we'll find out if they send us a letter.
I saw you glance at the camera when you said that.
So, I don't know how I did that, but
how many beers deep? Are you sure, man?
Yeah, so working with like the satellite type agencies, the NRO and NGA. Right now, when we look for like an isolated person, like you crash your F-18 on the ocean, let's say, they're flying C-130s at 300 to 500 feet altitude.
Okay.
Trying to find you.
All right.
And that's a very narrow straw if you kind of think about it that way. If you look through a straw, like that's all you're seeing.
Oh, wow.
So if you can get higher altitude, further distance, and even, space-based assets, now that straw is getting significantly wider. We're just able to cover a lot more ground and can kind of take the current out of play when we're looking for you. And
it really kind of shotgun blast that glare. Or
exactly.
View. So what's the name of that product?
It doesn't
have a name yet. Oh, so I could still name it?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're calling it the Midwave Beacon, which is quite possibly the worst name ever.
Oh no, we can come up with something better than that.
Yeah.
Put that out to the Being Built-averse and see if we can get the listeners to throw out some ideas. The
Absolutely.
Beacon, yeah, that's not going to do. We can come up with something. I mean, Craytech was pretty cool. That's a good name.
Yeah.
Right.
I have yet to name a product at Battle Sight, so if anybody come up with a name, like I'm gladly pay you on the side, so I can take credit for actually naming a product.
No, you don't need to pay for names. That's just fun. Now that I understand what a midwave beacon does or whatever, I mean, essentially what it is midwave is it's the hardest for your enemies to see.
Yeah.
But it makes it a lot easier for you to identify your ally that's lost at sea or whatever else,
exactly.
Right?
And there's so much filtering and algorithms they can do on the other side that's, takes people way smarter than me to figure out. But, there's definitely a lot of interesting approaches there.
Yeah. It's we can see you, but they can't. So you said you're kind of small but mighty. You're doing big things, but you have a tiny team, right?
Yeah, we're only 7 deep.
Is that right?
Mostly heavy on the engineering and science side of things.
You guys get a lot done with just a few of you.
We do, and we have such a great team. I can't brag on those guys enough.
You guys all local here?
All but one. We've got one guy in Syracuse, New York.
Okay. How'd you put that team together? You guys all know each other from past lives or something? Or
I started the company in 2017 with a guy in Syracuse. He's kind of our marketing brand guy. We brought on a COO as a partner as well in the early days.
Okay.
Again, kind of dumb luck. Had a mentor, different mentor.
Okay.
I said, hey, I really need, we were thinking about doing a capital raise in the early days. We ended up avoiding that and just bootstrapped the whole thing.
Good for you, man.
But I was like, I really need a good financial guy who can kind of understand all the capital raise and I'm an ideas guy. I won't lie. I feel like I know fairly well what I'm good at, and also know fairly well what I suck at. Bring on the people to kind of round out those abilities, and so got connected with him. It's a great meeting, 5-year relationship now. And then we needed a director of programs when we started winning contracts, so we could make sure we were staying compliant with all the government regulations. So we stole somebody from a customer, happened to be best friends with her husband for the better part of 20, 30 years now. And then on the technical side of things, it's just kind of word of mouth.
Okay.
I think we did a good job building a fun culture that kind of attracts people that you don't want to punch in the face every day.
Right.
Which is, kind of our goal for hiring.
When you're small, it's pretty easy to keep it that way, right?
Yeah.
How'd your customer feel when you stole somebody away from them?
They liked it. They approved it. They're good. She knows what she's doing. Kind of boosted their level of trust in us that we were going to be compliant with the 1,000 clauses they put in the contract or whatever it is.
So when you think about the next couple of years, are you still operating as the president or CEO or whatever? You're kind of the at the helm.
Yep.
When you think about the next couple of years, Nick, what's your most important objective?
Yeah, I think it's just growth right now.
Okay.
And a super broad and generic and very easy answer. But it's kind of twofold, right? We want to keep growing the sales and keep getting these products, technologies that we've developed into the hands of the warfighter, which is one avenue. But we also want to stay kind of ahead of the wave of any future conflicts and keep developing and building new capabilities, knowing that the customer might not be ready for these for the next, in 3 years they might be ready for it. But that means we need to be building it now.
So when you say ahead of future conflicts, you're literally talking about geopolitical stuff?
Yeah, just pure, boots on the ground, shooting at each other type of situation.
Yeah. So you're this stuff could happen in X place in the world, so we think this capability could be necessary.
Exactly.
So I think I need to innovate this, and this. We're doing this kind of research.
Yeah, and a lot of that just is being plugged in with our customers, right? I'm no geopolitical expert or war expert by any means. But engaging with them and finding out what their pain points are and what they're trying to solve for, and seeing if we can kind of come up with creative ideas in partnership with them to bring that capability to life.
So you're not talking to the Secretary of Defense or anything. It's just talking to your integrator community.
Yeah. I'm doing such a good job at engaging with the end users and solving their problems. I think if there's anywhere where we had room to improve upon was kind of closing the gap on the contracting finance side of things. We have a project going on right now. It's funded, but a very small amount. It could be a complete game changer how we go find isolated personnel on the ocean. If you think about an F-35 doing a deep strike in a country, right? Our stealth and technology on those aircraft are amazing. They're probably going to get in and be able to drop bombs where they should.
Okay.
But once you drop a bomb, everybody knows where you are.
Sure. So
it's getting out of the country is going to be the issue. And a lot of the countries that you think of for any potential future conflict are all kind of on the ocean. So we're probably going to exfil on the ocean side, which is probably, if we're going to lose an aircraft, probably where we're going to lose that aircraft.
Interesting.
So if you had, 5 F-35s go down in the South China Sea, let's say, how do you prioritize who you pick up, and how do you communicate from a man and a one-man life raft as to, hey, I'm all right, come get me when you can, or, I lost an arm on injection and I'm bleeding out, come get me now.
Damn.
And everywhere in between. I don't really actually know where I was going with that, but I'm sure it was super smart.
No, it was. I mean, you just walked through the kind of scenario that you're preparing for as you guys execute research and prepare and build product, right?
Exactly.
Like,
we would never know that's a problem if we weren't engaged with those end users at the time right now.
I asked the question about, losing aircraft in the ocean.
Yeah.
You're a little bit more connected to that real use case that you just defined right there than I was. And I get it now. That makes perfect sense. And it's because you're connected to your customer well and they understand that use case well. That's crazy that you have to be thinking ahead about that scenario and prepare a product like your mid-range thing that we're going to name.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, that's wild, man. Glad you're out there getting that done because we don't want those guys lost at sea.
Yeah.
With or without their arms or whatever, right?
Like, it's a very simplified way of saying it is just we don't want them to go into a fair fight. We definitely want the advantage on every front we possibly can.
If we're lucky, they don't have to go into those fights at all, right? But we know they're kind of inevitable.
I mean, I'd much rather, develop all this cool shit that never gets used because we never went to war. That's still a win in my book. And we can go out and advertise like, hey, we can kick your ass on superiority on these 15 areas. Like, you will not win this fight. That's a great deterrent.
Yeah, those are the best negotiations.
Yeah.
I do the executive search stuff or whatever. I do a little bit of coaching on negotiations, and I always coach folks that, the best way to enter a successful negotiation is to not need to concede.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't need to concede, then you don't win, right? Yeah. That's right. And you'll probably win that negotiation because it doesn't matter if you walk away, you win. If you hold your ground, you win. Whatever. The same is true in a warfare situation, right? So
absolutely.
As that goal that you have as kind of the executive leader for your small but mighty team over the next couple of years about winning new business and kind of growing and getting more of your product and your equipment into the hands of the warfighter, what are you going to be challenged with most over the next couple of years? What keeps you up at night? What are you most concerned with, and what do you have to fight against in order to get that done?
To be honest, there's probably 25 things that keep me up at night, but kind of narrowing it down to the big ones is, how do we keep that culture so we keep that continuity so we have people that show up every day who are happy to be at work and take care of them so they keep, kind of taking care of us and the customer, us as the company and the customers more importantly. So that's definitely one of the issues, I think, and, luckily we haven't had to face too many challenges on that. We total rock stars that work at Battle Sight. And two is just kind of the unknowns, right? I think I mentioned earlier, any administration change, whether it's Republican to Democrat, Democrat to Republican, there's just change. And how do you navigate that? And how do you align what you're trying to do to make sure that aligns with what the Air Force is trying to do and what the Army's trying to do and what the overall DOD and the entire government really at the end of the day is trying to do.
So with election year coming up, obviously that's good.
Oh yeah, we're about to.
Everybody's on high alert
on that front. And
well, good luck to you in the election season. As that kind of takes, we've got 2 years of everybody's at high alert for what that means to acquisitions.
Back and forth. Yeah. Luckily, our government does a pretty good job of planning, but it's always 2 years into the future, so it doesn't really. It's just a weird space to play in, but it's also motivating when you have the best customers in the world to kind of figure that out.
Nick, I appreciate you being on the show. Best of luck to you and your whole team and to the warfighter that you're supporting. And
thank you. I appreciate it.
Continued success. Happy Memorial Day to you, man.
Happy Memorial Day, brother.